Imagine an alien council renowned for its precision and advanced diplomacy faced with the task of training humans. Confident in their teachings, they expect Earthlings to eagerly adapt to the galaxy's civilized ways of communication until they encounter the human art of sarcasm. The Galactic Alliance's premier diplomats sat in their polished, gleaming training center, ready to impart the ways of galactic etiquette to a group of human representatives. Earth had finally been invited to the Alliance, and with that came the need for proper diplomatic conduct, as the aliens called it. But it didn't take long for things to go off script. "You mean I should smile while negotiating?" asked one human, her expression unreadable. "Sure, that won't be awkward at all." The alien trainers paused, puzzled. The human's tone didn't match the meaning of her words. Had she meant it seriously or as a form of complaint? For the first time, the Alliance diplomats felt a seed of doubt about this assignment. The confusion only deepened as the training continued. Humans responded to instructions with phrases like, "Oh, that sounds totally logical," or "Of course, because who doesn't want endless rules?" As the humans smirked, the aliens began taking frantic notes. Was this sarcasm, they wondered, some type of subtle human aggression? Or an alien concept so strange that even their advanced minds couldn't grasp it? The Galactic Alliance had perfected diplomacy over thousands of years. Each planet in the Alliance adhered to protocols for clarity, respect, and order. For them, communication was straightforward. If someone made a statement, it was exactly as it sounded. This was why the alien diplomats felt confident about their mission to Earth, believing that humans, though young on the galactic scene, could easily adopt these methods. The Alliance had prepared thoroughly. Their records on Earth's languages and cultural behaviors stretched across volumes, detailing everything from gestures to linguistic structures. Yet one phrase lingered as a curiosity in their reports: sarcasm. It was noted but largely dismissed, marked only as a minor and ambiguous form of humor. However, as the lead diplomat, Ambassador Xylon, prepared to meet the humans, he noticed one report that seemed oddly anxious for an Alliance briefing. Humans frequently utilize a form of humor in which they appear to say the opposite of what they mean. This form, known as sarcasm, may imply social intelligence yet also poses potential diplomatic confusion. Xylon brushed it off. Surely it was just a quirk, one of those unusual planetary characteristics, like a preference for spicy foods or their inexplicable use of caffeine for energy. The training began with a customary introduction. Humans, all dressed in varying shades of dark suits and business attire, sat across from a line of galactic diplomats who were clothed in the shimmering uniform silver robes of their office. Xylon welcomed them with a polite smile. "We are honored to bring your people into the Galactic Alliance. With just a few adjustments to your diplomatic customs, you'll be ready to represent Earth. Together, we shall communicate with clarity, transparency, and respect." One human raised an eyebrow, smirking ever so slightly. "Clarity, huh? Sure, we always get things right the first time." Xylon's brow furrowed. Something about that tone sounded different. The human's words were affirming, but the expression didn't match the agreement. The ambassador considered pressing the matter, but continued on with the lesson, assuming it was a cultural nuance he could revisit later. As the session progressed, Xylon presented guidelines on appropriate communication, stressing the importance of direct language, formal greetings, and the avoidance of emotional or ambiguous statements. "Every phrase in our diplomatic process is crafted to ensure unity," he explained. "There is no room for guesswork or personal interpretation. This is the foundation of a peaceful galaxy." One of the human representatives, a tall man with a faint smile, raised his hand. "So what you're saying is, we just need to be as serious and transparent as possible?" Xylon inclined his head. "Yes, precisely." The human leaned back, crossing his arms. "Oh, great. That sounds like it'll be a total walk in the park." At this, Xylon paused again. The words, "walk in the park," seemed straightforward, but the inflection was something off. Xylon activated a private comm link to his fellow diplomat seated beside him. "Record that last phrase," he whispered. It appears this human has delivered a phrase with multiple possible meanings. We will need to consult the cultural briefings on their humor to verify. The diplomat beside him, a younger and more enthusiastic member named Galva, discreetly logged the phrase and nodded. Galva's eyes glimmered with curiosity. She had read up on sarcasm and was determined to identify it when it arose. But the humans did not relent. Xylon continued the training, introducing points on nonverbal cues and gestures. In the Alliance, a respectful nod or hand signal was meticulously documented and held a single, universal meaning. One human muttered, "Yeah, that's exactly how things go on Earth. Everyone follows all the rules all the time." Another added, "And if someone gives you a thumbs up here, you can totally take that at face value." By now, the aliens were visibly unsettled. Each phrase seemed straightforward, yet there was an undercurrent they couldn't define, a sense that the humans were poking fun. But that was impossible. These were serious, intelligent beings. No one would undermine a Galactic Alliance protocol lesson. Xylon glanced at Galva, who was busily noting down everything the humans said, with added emphasis on intonation and facial expressions. The humans continued with small asides and seemingly contradictory comments like, "Oh, sure, this isn't overwhelming at all," or "Who doesn't want to memorize hundreds of rules?" Remarks the aliens assumed meant agreement, but with a tone that left them unsure. At last, Xylon cleared his throat, deciding to address this sarcasm topic head-on. "Humans," he began cautiously, "we have been made aware of a linguistic feature in your culture known as sarcasm, wherein statements may not be entirely literal. We wish to inquire, has this sarcasm been present in any part of your responses today?" The humans exchanged glances, suppressing smiles. "Oh no, not at all," one replied, eyes twinkling. "We're as serious as can be." Another human added, deadpan, "Yeah, sarcasm, never heard of it." Xylon glanced down at his notes, feeling more perplexed than he'd felt in all his diplomatic training. These humans didn't seem to be lying, but there was a feeling, an inexplicable sense, that the conversation was layered in some way he couldn't comprehend. Xylon made a mental note. Request additional clarification on human expression techniques. Meanwhile, the human representatives continued, watching the aliens' confusion with barely concealed amusement. "If this setup works for you, I'll proceed to the next section, where the introduction of humans and alien reactions will explore the heightening misunderstandings as the humans lean further into their sarcastic responses, leading to mounting confusion and frantic note-taking from the alien diplomats." Xylon took a deep breath, reminding himself of his mission. The Galactic Alliance prided itself on patience and understanding. These humans were simply unconventional, but a skilled diplomat could bridge any gap. As the training resumed, Xylon introduced a series of mock scenarios to allow the humans to practice Alliance etiquette. In one, they were to greet an imaginary alien official with respect and formality, as required by the Alliance. A human named Emma stepped forward, suppressing a grin. She bowed dramatically, hands sweeping wide, and addressed her alien superior with, "Greetings, O majestic and wise counselor of the galactic cosmos. We humble earthlings are in awe of your knowledge and eternal wisdom." Xylon tilted his head, noting her exaggerated tone. She had fulfilled the requirement, yet something felt unusual. He turned to Galva, who was noting down every word with intense focus. Xylon whispered, "Do you sense any subtlety in her tone?" Galva adjusted her monocle-like translator device, furrowing her brow. "It's difficult to tell. It seems sincere, yet I feel she's perhaps overstating." Emma continued, adding, "Your protocols are clearly the pinnacle of galactic diplomacy. We could never imagine anything more thorough or intricate." By now, several of the humans were stifling laughter. Xylon's confusion only deepened. He cleared his throat. "Thank you, Emma. Your demonstration was quite enthusiastic. Now, could you try it again, but perhaps with less reverence? A simple greeting will suffice." Emma gave a mock salute, and with an exaggeratedly neutral face she replied, "As you wish, O most wise and humble teacher." As Emma stepped back, Xylon began to suspect that this sarcasm was more pervasive than he had first realized. He decided to observe a bit longer, hoping they could catch a pattern. The next scenario was a diplomatic negotiation meant to teach humans the art of respectful compromise. Xelon set up a hypothetical situation involving two planets competing over shared mineral rights. The objective was to reach an amicable solution without resorting to conflict. A human named Mark took the lead. He leaned back, arms crossed, and said, "So, you want our precious minerals, huh? Sure thing. We'll just hand over everything we've got, no questions asked." Xylon tensed. "Mark, the purpose of diplomacy is to express mutual interest and protect one's resources with more subtlety." Mark shrugged, nodding with a raised eyebrow. "Oh, absolutely. We love subtlety. Nothing says diplomacy like giving up everything right away." At this, Galva began to look visibly distressed. She leaned in closer to Xylon. "Ambassador, this seems suspiciously like sarcasm. But why would they communicate in such a way? What advantage could be gained from creating ambiguity?" Xylon considered this, baffled. The more he observed, the clearer it became. The humans appeared to find some unspoken amusement in deliberately creating misunderstanding. But for what purpose? Surely this was no efficient form of communication. One of the humans, a young woman named Lila, seemed to notice the mounting confusion. "Are we, throwing you guys off with our jokes?" Xylon blinked. "Jokes?" she laughed. "Yeah, humor, sarcasm. We sometimes say the opposite of what we mean. Makes things more interesting, I guess." Xelon and Galva exchanged wide-eyed glances. Lila's words provided a small clue, but also opened a vast chasm of questions. If humans communicated this way as a form of humor, could their entire language be double-layered? Was every interaction subject to this hidden code? Feeling the weight of his duty, Xylon addressed the humans directly. "Forgive our lack of understanding," he said slowly. "It appears we have underestimated the complexities of your communication. This sarcasm, do you find it necessary?" One of the humans, a gray-haired man with a wry smile, responded, "Oh, absolutely essential. How else could we handle life? Can't always be serious, Xylon felt his composure slip. But why would one obscure their meaning? Surely clarity is the purpose of communication. Emma raised her hand, a mischievous smile spreading across her face. "Well, Ambassador, sometimes life is just too ridiculous to take seriously. It's like a way of coping. Think of sarcasm as a relief valve." Xylon mulled over her words, trying to grasp the underlying logic. He considered the Galactic Alliance's centuries-long struggle to maintain unity and precision in every interaction. Sarcasm, by those standards, seemed a chaotic luxury. Galva, meanwhile, was frantically taking notes, muttering things like, "Sarcasm, opposite meaning, used to diffuse tension, possible advantage in uncertain situations." Another human, John, leaned forward with a grin. "Let's just say it keeps us sane. You aliens are so buttoned up all the time. Don't you ever get tired of taking everything so seriously?" Galva's face flushed a pale shade of blue, a sign of embarrassment among her species. She looked to Xylon for reassurance. One of the humans raised his hands in mock surrender. "Relax, we're not trying to start a galactic incident. We just have a, let's say, unique way of expressing ourselves." Galva turned to Xylon with a look of revelation. Perhaps sarcasm could indeed serve as a tool of indirect diplomacy. The humans use it to convey sentiments that might otherwise cause tension. Imagine, Ambassador, a tool for avoiding direct confrontation while still communicating discontent. Xylon hesitated. It was a radical idea, but not without potential. Sarcasm, while inefficient in his view, seemed to carry a certain strategic subtlety. "Very well," Xylon said, nodding slowly. "Perhaps we can continue the training with this as sarcasm included as an experimental diplomatic method. But be warned, humans, we may require assistance to understand when you are, as you say, serious and when you are not." The humans shared a glance, nodding in good-natured agreement. Emma raised her coffee cup in a mock toast. "Here's to alien diplomacy, sarcasm and all." Galva noted this, underlining her notes with a flourish. The humans, she realized, operated with a unique resilience, a way of facing life's absurdities by twisting language to their advantage. and though it baffled her, she found herself intrigued. Xylon cleared his throat. "We shall proceed cautiously," he announced. "If this sarcasm is indeed essential to your interactions, then we will study it with care, but we expect your cooperation in making its boundaries clear." One of the humans chuckled. "Of course, Ambassador, nothing would make us happier." And as the humans chuckled among themselves, Xylon could only watch, half convinced he was the punchline of a joke he didn't fully understand. The diplomatic training continued, but the atmosphere had grown tense. The aliens, despite their best efforts to adjust to human communication styles, seemed even more bewildered. Xylon and his team had begun attempting sarcasm identification, a system where each statement by a human was analyzed for hidden meanings. Unfortunately, their efforts only led to further misunderstandings. Galva was assigned as the sarcasm monitor, tasked with trying to detect human irony and cataloging examples for future study. She clutched a small electronic notepad, her gaze intense, scanning every expression and gesture the humans made. The next exercise was a scenario involving a diplomatic crisis. The humans were to imagine negotiating with an agitated alien species, the Xintar, who were rumored to be highly sensitive and easily offended. Xylon addressed the humans solemnly, explaining the importance of empathy and composure when handling such delicate negotiations. "Now," Xylon began, "it is crucial to remember that the Xintar value dignity above all. If insulted, they are prone to overreaction. So proceed with tact." Emma leaned in, trying to stifle a grin. "Oh, no worries. We'll handle it with all the subtlety we're known for." Xylon hesitated, glancing at Galva, who was rapidly typing away. "Emma, do you mean that sincerely?" Emma gave a thumbs up, smiling too sweetly. "Oh, absolutely. We're practically oozing diplomacy here." The sarcasm monitor noted the exchange as ambiguous, and the scenario moved forward. Xylon continued, increasingly unsure about what he was witnessing. As the simulated negotiation began, the humans role-played their parts with exaggerated seriousness. Emma took on the role of a human delegate, while Mark pretended to be the Xintar representative, demanding respect and careful phrasing. Mark, playing the Xintar, glowered. "Your approach is disrespectful. We demand an apology." Emma put on a mock-serious face. "Oh, we are so sorry for any offense," she replied, adding a slow, theatrical bow. "Please accept our most sincere apologies." Galva's eyes darted between them, unsure if Emma's tone was genuine. She scribbled in her notes, "Human apology. Appears exaggerated. Possibly insincere." The aliens watched the humans, visibly perplexed. Emma noticed their confusion and leaned over to her fellow humans. "Guys, I think we're breaking their brains." This comment was whispered, but Xylon overheard. "Emma, please clarify," he said. "Are you breaking our cognitive functions?" The humans laughed, which only unsettled the aliens further. "Oh no," Emma said with a reassuring grin. "It's just a figure of speech. Means we're confusing you." Xylon nodded slowly, beginning to regret his request for clarification. The session continued, but with each sarcastic remark, Xylon grew more exasperated. When he attempted to steer the humans toward more literal statements, they responded by increasing their sarcasm even further. At one point, Mark offered a solution to a hypothetical galactic standoff by suggesting Earth just surrender immediately and save everyone the trouble. Xylon's expression turned grave. "Surrender? That is unprecedented for your people, is it not?" Mark chuckled. "Oh yeah, we'd never do that." Xylon's brows furrowed. "Then why did you suggest it?" Mark shrugged. "It's called sarcasm, Ambassador." As the hours dragged on, the alien's initial confidence turned to open dismay. Xylon, despite his reputation as a calm and skilled diplomat, was visibly losing patience. Meanwhile, Galva's sarcasm log was growing so quickly that her notepad began beeping with an overload warning. She glanced at Xylon, her expression a mix of embarrassment and fatigue. "Ambassador, it seems that these humans, they are deliberately ambiguous. Every statement has an opposite meaning." Xylon frowned, rubbing his temple. "It defies all sense. Communication is meant to convey truth, to bridge gaps in understanding, not to create them." Galva nodded, whispering, "Perhaps we could attempt sarcasm ourselves, to mirror their technique." The ambassador froze, contemplating the idea. Perhaps this sarcasm could indeed be weaponized, turned into a tool that even the Galactic Council could master. If the humans used sarcasm to navigate difficult conversations, perhaps the aliens could too. He turned to the humans. "We have decided to embrace this method of yours. Let us see if we can also use sarcasm to enhance diplomacy." The humans exchanged wide-eyed glances, then stifled laughter. This would be interesting. The alien's first attempt was, to say the least, awkward. Xylon gestured for silence, attempting to gather his thoughts. He raised a hand and spoke in an overly serious tone. "Yes, humans," he said with exaggerated emphasis. "We are absolutely thrilled to spend another few hours deciphering your communications." Emma, unable to hold back, burst out laughing. "Well done, Ambassador. I think you nailed it." Xylon's expression softened, a slight smirk appearing as he recognized the human's reaction. It seemed he was beginning to understand. The humans watched with amusement as Xylon and Galva continued their experiments. At one point, Xylon announced, "Yes, please tell us more about how humor enhances clarity." The humans cheered them on, playfully clapping. "Welcome to the dark side of communication," Mark joked. But the sarcasm exercise quickly spiraled into chaos. The aliens, overestimating their mastery of this new form, began layering sarcasm upon sarcasm. In one instance, Galva responded to Emma's compliment on her robes by saying, "Oh, these? I absolutely hate them," with a flourish that suggested she didn't understand sarcasm fully. The humans' laughter was contagious, and soon the room was filled with chuckling aliens and amused humans. Yet the exercise, though humorous, ultimately only served to deepen the aliens' confusion. Xylon finally held up a hand, signaling an end to the chaos. "Enough. It is clear to me now," he said with exasperation, "that sarcasm, while effective for humans, may not be practical for us." Galva, who had also been taking detailed notes, looked relieved. "Agreed, Ambassador. It seems that humans have a resilience and tolerance for ambiguity that we may not possess." The humans nodded in understanding, and Emma spoke up. "Hey, look, we're not expecting you to get it all at once. Sarcasm isn't exactly something you can learn from a textbook." Xylon sighed. "Indeed, it appears to be a natural talent of your species." Another round of laughter filled the room, the humans thoroughly enjoying the ambassador's attempt at a sarcastic tone. As the training day ended, Xylon made one last address to the humans. "Thank you, humans, for your insights into your unique communication style. Though I cannot promise the Galactic Alliance will adopt sarcasm in diplomatic protocol, we will note it as an Earth-specific skill." Emma grinned. "Trust us, Ambassador. You might want to keep it handy for tough negotiations." Galva, clutching her overfilled notepad, added, "And perhaps a guide for detecting sarcasm would be useful in future encounters." Xylon nodded. "Indeed, we will consider a sarcasm protocol for human interactions." As the humans left, they shared a parting joke with the bewildered aliens, who could only wonder if it was genuine or another exercise in irony. It would take years, perhaps, to understand human communication fully, but one thing was clear. Earthlings were unlike any species they had encountered. With that, the Galactic Council determined that Earth would be designated as an advanced interpersonal protocol zone and required ongoing study. Meanwhile, Ambassador Xylon and his team made a note in the galactic records. "Human communication. Beware of double meanings and ambiguity. When in doubt, ask if they're serious." After the humans departed, the room was left in stunned silence. The alien diplomats sat in their polished seats, blinking at each other, unsure what to make of the day's events. For the first time in his long career, Ambassador Xylon felt truly disoriented. Galva broke the silence first, holding her filled notepad as though it were a relic of another dimension. "Ambassador," she began slowly, "do you think humans do this on purpose? Communicate in such ambiguity?" Xylon shook his head, clearly puzzled. "It defies logic, doesn't it? They have entire layers to their language that serve no purpose other than to obscure meaning. They laugh at things that are nonsensical, create confusion intentionally, and thrive in chaos." Galva adjusted her translator, which had overloaded several times throughout the day. Ambassador, she said softly, could it be that their sarcasm is a form of resilience, a way to cope with the unpredictability of life? Xylon pondered this. In the Galactic Alliance, efficiency and clarity were the cornerstones of every communication. Each species strove for transparency, believing that only complete honesty could build trust. But humans seem to take a strange delight in the gaps between words and meanings. It's as if, Xylon started, struggling to articulate the thought, as if they revel in the unknown, as if they find solace in uncertainty. Galva nodded thoughtfully. Ambassador, consider this. Our species relies on structure and control. We prepare for every scenario. But humans, it seems, are accustomed to things going wrong. Perhaps they have adapted to thrive within chaos itself. This revelation was unsettling for Xylon, who prided himself on his precision and control. Galva, he said, voice filled with a touch of dread, if humans truly embrace the unpredictable, how can they be trusted in the Alliance? What if they disrupt our unity? Galva gave a slight, knowing smile. Ambassador, I believe they already have disrupted it, but maybe that's a good thing. Xylon's eyes widened. Good? How could such unpredictability be beneficial? Galva gestured toward her notepad, where she had jotted down some of the humans' comments. Phrases like winging it, going with the flow, and rolling with the punches. The words were alien concepts in every sense of the phrase. Ambassador, humans possess a flexibility we have never seen before, she explained. They are unbreakable in their own way. When rules fail, they invent new ones. When structure collapses, they laugh and rebuild. Their sarcasm, their humor, it isn't just a language quirk. It's an outlook, a philosophy. Xylon's thoughts spiraled. Could it be that the very things they found frustrating, sarcasm, irony, humor, were actually signs of an unparalleled resilience? A survival mechanism honed by centuries of living on an unpredictable planet? What if, Xylon mused, their humor is a way to transcend fear, to diminish the impact of crises? Galva nodded, her expression one of awe. Precisely. They mock danger, laugh at misfortune, and use sarcasm to brush off the very things we dread. Perhaps this is why they are fearless in the face of adversity. Xylon sighed deeply, feeling a sense of existential unease. In the Alliance, every crisis had a protocol, every disaster a planned response. The idea of using humor or sarcasm in the face of chaos was unimaginable, yet humans seemed to wield it like a weapon. Imagine, Galva, he said quietly, a species that faces catastrophe with a smile. Galva's face brightened, her intrigue clearly overtaking her earlier frustration. Maybe that is why their species has survived countless challenges on their homeworld. They didn't survive because they avoided chaos, but because they adapted to live within it. Their reflections were interrupted by a comlink message. It was a brief report from the Galactic Council requesting a preliminary evaluation of humanity's readiness for the Alliance. Xylon hesitated. What could he possibly report? That humans were sarcastic? That they seemed to lack the appropriate decorum? Or should he mention their resilience, their ability to embrace ambiguity, to thrive in circumstances that would break other species? Finally, he began typing his response. Preliminary findings. Humans demonstrate unique adaptability and resilience. They exhibit unconventional communication methods, including sarcasm and humor, which serve as coping mechanisms in the face of uncertainty. While their methods diverge from established galactic protocols, they reveal an extraordinary strength, one we may learn from. As he sent the report, Galva glanced at him. Ambassador, what will the Council think of our findings? Xylon leaned back, rubbing his temples. They will likely view these humans as chaotic, perhaps even primitive. But I am beginning to believe that they possess a strength that we, in our structured existence, have lost. Galva looked down at her notes, her gaze distant. If humans are to join the Alliance, we may need to rethink our protocols. Perhaps there is value in adaptability, in finding humor even in impossible situations. Xylon raised an eyebrow. Are you suggesting we too embrace chaos? Galva gave a hesitant smile. Not chaos, Ambassador, but maybe a little flexibility? The ambassador exhaled slowly, letting the idea sink in. Flexibility was a foreign concept for his people, who had spent generations perfecting order and predictability. Yet the humans' approach had shown them a way that could strengthen the alliance in ways they had never imagined. As they pondered, a final thought crossed Xylon's mind. "Galva," he asked softly, "do you think we could ever learn to be like them, to laugh in the face of danger?" Galva chuckled, a small, genuine laugh that felt strange and out of place in the formal council room. "Perhaps, Ambassador, but I believe it will take time, and maybe a few more lessons from our human friends." They both smiled, feeling an unexpected lightness in the air. It was as though a piece of humanity's spirit had permeated their own rigid structure, sparking something that had long been dormant. Xylon returned to his quarters that evening, feeling more unsettled and more inspired than he ever had. Staring out at the stars, he wondered if perhaps humanity's strength lay not in their technology, nor their knowledge, but in their ability to laugh, to adapt, and to face the unknown without fear. His report concluded with a final note for the Galactic Council. Humans may be unpredictable, but they bring a unique resilience that could prove invaluable. Recommend further study on human coping mechanisms, with special attention to sarcasm and humor. Earth is unlike any world we have encountered, and we may yet learn much from these adaptable beings. As Xylon sent the message, he felt a flicker of excitement. Humans, with their chaotic communication and strange resilience, might just be the key to the Alliance's future. And as he pondered this, a rare smile crossed his face, a smile filled with hope and a touch of the very irony he had spent the day trying to understand. A week after their initial training sessions, the Galactic Alliance unexpectedly called upon Earth's new representatives for an emergency situation. A distress signal had been sent from a nearby space station, which was experiencing a critical reactor failure. The station's engineers, consisting primarily of alien species, had been unable to stabilize it despite their advanced protocols. The Alliance's diplomats knew they couldn't afford to lose the station, and given the urgency, they decided to take a calculated risk. They requested a team of human engineers to join the mission, hoping that Earth's unconventional problem-solving skills might succeed where protocols had failed. Ambassador Xylon and his team, still reeling from their experience with human sarcasm, were assigned to accompany the humans, ensuring that the Alliance's standards were maintained. Xylon's doubts remained, but he couldn't deny a growing sense of intrigue and perhaps even hope that humans might offer a unique solution. On board the emergency transport ship, the humans were briefed on the reactor failure. "Basically," Xylon explained, struggling to maintain his composure, "the station's core temperature has risen beyond critical levels. We have followed every known procedure, but nothing has restored stability." One of the human engineers, a sturdy man named Jake, grinned and patted his toolkit. "Sounds like a job for some good old-fashioned elbow grease and maybe a touch of duct tape." Xylon blinked, visibly confused. "Elbow grease?" Jake chuckled. "Don't worry, Ambassador. It just means we're ready to roll up our sleeves and get to work." Emma, one of the diplomats from the initial training, leaned in, smirking. "Besides, when in doubt, duct tape fixes everything. Right, Jake?" Xylon frowned. "We have data logs showing that the reactor core is sensitive to foreign materials. You wouldn't actually apply duct tape to a high-voltage system, would you?" The humans burst into laughter, while Jake replied with a wink, "Only if things get really desperate." Xylon exchanged a look with Galva, who was already taking notes on the humans' terminology. Despite their confusion, the aliens were beginning to understand that this humor, however baffling, seemed to lighten the human spirits, even in dire situations. When they arrived at the station, the situation was worse than anticipated. Alarms blared, and the station's engineers were scrambling to maintain control. The reactor's systems were overheating, and thick, billowing steam filled parts of the control room, adding to the chaos. Jake assessed the situation, shouting above the noise. "All right, let's get to work. Ambassador, you're in charge of communications. Relay everything to the station's control team so they know what's happening on our end." Xylon stiffened. He had never been ordered around by anyone outside the council, but he accepted his role, even as Jake and Emma led the team toward the reactor. As they neared the reactor, the aliens gaped at the humans' confidence. One alien engineer cautioned, "Our systems are delicate. Every action requires exact calibration." Jake gave a thumbs up, chuckling. "Sure thing. We'll be as delicate as a feather, or a brick depending on what's needed." The alien looked alarmed, unsure if Jake was being literal, but the humans were already at work. They bypassed protocol after protocol, relying instead on instincts and immediate solutions, often improvising with materials on hand. Xylon, witnessing the humans' audacious approach, asked, "Why don't you follow the procedures we provided?" Emma, who was carefully adjusting a cooling valve, glanced up, grinning. "Sometimes there isn't time for a 50-page manual, Ambassador. When things go wrong, we adapt. That's the human way." Galva, observing them with both fascination and horror, muttered, "But this is madness." "Maybe," Jake replied, unfazed. "But it's how we get things done." As they moved deeper into the control systems, more complications emerged. The primary coolant had leaked, and backup systems were failing. Galva suggested waiting for reinforcements, but the humans shook their heads. "No time," Emma said firmly. "If we wait, this whole station goes up in flames. We'll have to reroute coolant manually." The aliens were horrified. Rerouting coolant by hand was considered a last resort and incredibly dangerous. But the humans pressed forward, their faces resolute. Jake looked at the alien engineers, who watched with stunned expressions, and said, "If anyone here has a family heirloom or personal valuables, you might want to grab them now. We're about to get creative." The aliens hesitated, still unsure, but something about the humans' confidence gave them pause. Maybe, just maybe, they could trust these strange beings. The humans quickly formulated a plan, setting up an improvised cooling bypass using nearby tools, spare parts, and indeed duct tape. The aliens watched as the humans combined parts in ways that defied every standard practice they'd been taught. "Are you sure this jumbled mess of components will work?" an alien technician asked nervously. Jake flashed a grin. "Not 100%, but we're about to find out." The aliens gasped. Operating without certainty? It was unthinkable. But as the humans connected the makeshift solution, the temperature gauge on the reactor began to stabilize. The aliens could only watch in awe as the humans monitored the reactor, adjusting settings as needed, always reacting quickly and decisively. Each time a new problem arose, the humans adapted on the spot, finding solutions that seemed impossibly simple, and yet they worked. When the gauge finally dropped to safe levels, Xylon felt an immense wave of relief, mingled with disbelief. You saved the station," he said, as though the words were foreign. Jake chuckled, wiping his brow. "Just another day at the office. We're not fans of overheating reactors back home either." The aliens, initially stunned, gradually broke into relieved cheers. For the first time, they began to grasp the strange, indomitable spirit of humanity, a spirit that thrived in chaos, that met danger with humor, and that found solutions, no matter how unconventional. As the humans packed up their tools, Xylon approached Jake, Emma, and the others, his expression a mix of humility and admiration. "Humans," he began, "your methods are unconventional. They defy reason and at times logic. But today I witnessed something remarkable. You adapt, even when it seems impossible. You find humor in the face of destruction." Emma smirked. "Hey, sometimes a laugh is all that stands between us and the edge. Keeps things manageable, you know." Xylon nodded slowly, the beginnings of a smile on his face. "Yes, perhaps there is wisdom in this edge you speak of. We have spent lifetimes attempting to eliminate uncertainty, to control every variable. But today I see that perhaps control is not always the answer." Galva added, "You humans have shown us that flexibility, creativity, and even humor can be powerful tools. Perhaps it is time we adopt some of these qualities ourselves." Jake handed Xylon a roll of duct tape, grinning. "Keep this as a memento. You never know when a bit of improvisation might save the day." Xylon held the roll, eyeing it as though it were a mystical artifact. He realized that, in a way, it was a symbol of human resilience and adaptability. "Thank you," Xylon said, genuinely moved. "The Galactic Council will hear of this day. Earth's entry into the Alliance will be recommended, and I will insist on it." The humans exchanged high fives, grinning. "See? Told you we'd win them over eventually." As they prepared to depart, Xylon had one final thought. "Before you go, may I ask, is there a protocol for this duct tape of yours?" Jake laughed. "Oh, Ambassador, there's no protocol. It just fixes stuff. That's all there is to it." With that, the humans boarded their transport, leaving the aliens to reflect on the day's events. As the alien team watched the transport disappear into the stars, Xylon clutched the duct tape roll, a quiet smile crossing his face. He understood now. Humans possessed a resilience that was not born of strict protocols or advanced technology, but from the ability to face the unknown with a flexible spirit and a touch of humor. The Galactic Alliance would benefit greatly from such an influence, and Xylon knew that in time the other species would come to appreciate Earth's strange, beautiful ways. The day was saved, not by protocols or precision, but by human grit, duct tape, and a joke or two. Back on the Galactic Council's headquarters, Ambassador Xylon and his team settled into the debriefing room. The rescue mission had left them exhausted but enlightened, and each member of his team seemed lost in thought, holding on to pieces of the humans' quirky improvisations and humor. For the first time, they found themselves questioning long-standing protocols, wondering if perhaps some flexibility, a touch of unpredictability, might be beneficial after all. Xylon held up the roll of duct tape Jake had given him, studying it with the intensity usually reserved for rare alien artifacts. The small, unassuming roll was a fitting symbol of everything he had learned from humanity, its simplicity, resilience, and a practicality that bordered on reckless courage. As the team settled in, Galva spoke first, her voice filled with quiet reverence. "Ambassador, the humans taught us something profound. Their methods may seem unorthodox, even chaotic, but they succeeded where we could not. They revealed that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective." Xylon nodded, still contemplating the roll of duct tape. "Indeed, Galva, we had been so focused on procedure, on eliminating every possible risk, that we failed to see the strength in adaptability. Today I saw that rigidity can be as dangerous as uncertainty." He turned to his team, each member now showing signs of having been deeply affected by the experience. Even the youngest among them, a bright-eyed diplomat named Serac, looked more thoughtful than ever, as though he were reconsidering his understanding of the universe itself. "From now on," Xylon continued, "I believe the Alliance should recognize the value of controlled adaptability. Earth has shown us that while preparation is essential, so too is the ability to adapt, to think on one's feet." Serac raised his hand tentatively. "Ambassador, might we perhaps include this duct tape as an emergency resource in our Alliance protocols? Not just as a tool, but as a reminder of the importance of adaptability." The room murmured in agreement, and Xylon smiled. "A wise suggestion, Serac. This humble item will serve as a symbol, a reminder that not all answers come from protocol." Galva, who had once been the staunchest advocate for traditional diplomacy, surprised everyone by suggesting, "Perhaps we could also adopt a measure of humor into our training programs. I noticed how the humans used humor to diffuse tension and maintain morale, even when the situation was bleak." Xylon arched an eyebrow, amused. "Galva, does that mean you will be leading our new humor initiative?" She chuckled, a rare, unguarded laugh. "I might, though I suspect our version of humor will need a gentler start than theirs." The entire team shared a laugh, their spirits lifted by the memory of the humans' ability to find joy amidst chaos. For the first time in memory, the atmosphere within the Council's chambers was filled not with somber reverence, but with warmth and a strange new optimism. The Council's decision. Later that day, Xylon presented his final report to the Galactic Council, detailing the mission's success and recommending Earth's official entry into the Alliance. As he delivered his account, he could see the Council members exchanging uneasy glances, clearly wary of the unpredictable methods he described. One member, Councillor Vereen, cleared his throat, his voice heavy with skepticism. "Ambassador Xylon," Vareen began, "are you suggesting that the Galactic Alliance adopt Earth's unconventional practices? Surely our way has ensured peace and stability for millennia." Xylon paused, carefully choosing his words. "Counselor, I understand the concern. Our protocols have served us well. But today, I have come to realize that there is strength in adaptability. The humans taught us that sometimes a flexible approach, one that allows for improvisation, can save lives." Counselor Vareen leaned back, thoughtful. "And what of their humor, their sarcasm? Surely that is of no practical use?" A knowing smile crossed Xylon's face. "It is true that sarcasm does not appear to have a direct function in our diplomatic protocols. But humor, Counselor, humor has a purpose. It brings courage in dark times, lifts spirits when hope is scarce, and allows one to face challenges with resilience." The council members whispered among themselves, visibly torn between tradition and the ambassador's groundbreaking recommendations. Xylon continued, his voice filled with conviction. "Today I witnessed a spirit that cannot be broken by protocol or fear, a spirit that thrives even when chaos threatens to overwhelm. It is my belief that the Galactic Alliance will be stronger with Earth as a member. And if they bring duct tape and humor, so be it." The council fell silent, considering his words. Finally, after a long pause, Counselor Vareen nodded slowly. "Very well, Ambassador. Let it be known that Earth shall be welcomed into the Alliance, with a provisional clause for adaptability training." A wave of relief washed over Xylon. He had succeeded not only in securing Earth's place in the Alliance, but in planting the seeds of change within the Council itself. A new chapter begins. Later, as Xylon and his team departed the Council chamber, Galva approached him, her expression thoughtful. "Do you believe the humans will truly influence the Alliance?" Xylon smiled, glancing down at the roll of duct tape in his hand. "I have no doubt, Galva. Humans are unpredictable. But perhaps that is exactly what we need. They remind us that the universe itself is unpredictable, and that sometimes we must embrace its uncertainty." As they walked down the hall, Xylon caught a glimpse of his reflection in a polished surface. For a moment, he saw himself not as the rigid diplomat he had always been, but as someone capable of facing the unknown with a touch of humor, a hint of resilience. Perhaps in a small way, he had begun to understand the essence of humanity. Together they shared stories from the mission, laughing over the humans' audacity, and recounting the strange, endearing quirks they had come to admire. At one point, Galva raised a toast. "To humanity," she said, holding up her glass, "for showing us that sometimes the greatest strength is found not in following every rule, but in knowing when to bend them." The team clinked glasses, a warmth filling the room as they toasted to Earth's entry into the Alliance. Xylon leaned back, feeling a newfound peace. The future was uncertain, and yet he felt prepared. Perhaps he thought the humans were right. Perhaps a bit of humor, a willingness to adapt, and even a roll of duct tape could go a long way in a universe as vast and unpredictable as theirs. The final report. Xylon's last report to the Galactic Council concluded with a note that would go down in Alliance history. "In moments of crisis, look not only to the established protocols, but also to the spirit of resilience. And if all else fails, bring a human." And thus, Earth joined the Galactic Alliance, its people regarded with a mix of awe, confusion, and respect. A species whose unpredictable methods would forever change the course of interstellar diplomacy. Months had passed since Earth's induction into the Galactic Alliance, and humanity's presence was already reshaping its dynamics in ways no one had anticipated. The Galactic Council's protocols, once unbending and rigid, were now peppered with new procedures and clauses, some of which bore a strikingly human influence. In a quiet council chamber on one of the Alliance's remote outposts, a pair of diplomats studied the latest procedural updates on a holographic screen. Among the recent additions, they found themselves staring at an unusual clause under the Emergency Crisis Management section. In situations where conventional protocols fail, consult human representatives for potential improvisational solutions. Human strategies may include duct tape, humor, and improvisational morale-boosting techniques. See Appendix 3B, human ad hoc solutions. One of the diplomats, a gray-skinned Juxery named Olith, scratched his head, utterly perplexed. This improvisational morale boosting, does it actually work? His colleague, a tall, thin Yalran named Verret, shrugged, equally mystified. Apparently so. It seems that the humans' unconventional methods have saved multiple missions already. Last week they used something called caffeine to keep a crew awake during a critical repair operation. Olith raised an eyebrow. Caffeine? Verret nodded. A stimulating substance. The humans call it coffee and seem to treat it as essential for survival. It's now listed in the standard emergency supplies. The two diplomats shared a long, bewildered look before finally shrugging. If the humans insisted on carrying odd tools and coffee, then so be it. Stranger things had proven useful in the galaxy's vast history. Meanwhile, on Earth, Emma and Jake, the human engineers who had led the initial rescue mission, were enjoying newfound fame within the Alliance. They'd been invited to several alien worlds to give demonstrations of their human problem-solving methods, much to their amusement. As they prepared for their next mission, Jake shook his head with a grin. Can you believe it, Emma? Aliens across the galaxy want us to teach them how to fix stuff with duct tape and tell jokes. Emma laughed, zipping up her toolkit. Hey, if they're willing to pay us to do what we'd be doing anyway, I'm in. Besides, we're showing them that not every solution has to be high-tech. Sometimes a bit of creativity is all you need. Jake nodded. And coffee. Don't forget the coffee. Together, they boarded their ship, laughing as they thought about how far they'd come. From Earth to the stars, carrying little more than a roll of duct tape, a coffee mug, and a sense of humor. Back at the Galactic Council headquarters, Ambassador Zelon watched from a high window as the human ship departed, a faint smile playing on his lips. Humans, with their quirks and unpredictability, had brought a strange but invaluable perspective to the Alliance. They'd introduced concepts like humor, resilience, and improvisation, and in doing so, had unlocked something even the most advanced technologies couldn't provide: hope in the face of uncertainty. Xylon tapped his comm link, sending a final note to his team. Prepare for future training sessions on human resilience techniques. All council members are strongly encouraged to attend. As he sent the message, he couldn't help but feel that the future of the Alliance was brighter, more flexible, and, dare he say, more fun with humanity by their side. And so, the Galactic Alliance embarked on a new chapter, led by a diverse, united front of species, all strengthened by a simple truth they'd learned from Earth. Sometimes, the best way to face the unknown is with a roll of duct tape, a cup of coffee, and a good laugh.